Guys, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you a bit of a different video. As you can guess by the title, I am going to be sharing with you all about my rhinoseptoplasty journey. I've had two rhinoseptoplasties. I had one back in 2014 and then one at the beginning of this year. So I really wanted to share with you my journey, the ins and outs of having the operation, and why I decided to go and get a revision rhinoseptoplasty done. I have heaps of before and after photos to share with you guys, and I also vlogged the entire recovery process from the last rhinoseptoplasty that I did, which will be in part 2 of this video. This is going to be part 1, my reasoning why, and then part 2 will be my recovery vlog. So I hope you guys find this video helpful, especially if you are thinking about getting the surgery. This is in no way to turn you off getting surgery at all, but it's really good to just be really informed and to find out exactly what can happen. This isn't a horror story by any means, but my journey definitely wasn't as smooth sailing as a lot of the videos that I found on YouTube. So I thought it was really helpful to kind of put my experience out there. So if any of you are thinking about getting the surgery, you can kind of see what can actually happen as well. If you're new here, thank you for clicking on this video. Don't forget to subscribe down below before you leave. Give this video a big like, thumbs up, and let's go. To start off this journey, we are going to rewind back to 2014. Well, basically, the beginning of my life. I was born with a deviated septum. For those who don't know what a deviated septum is, basically your nose is divided into obviously your two nostrils. There's a bit of cartilage which goes right down the middle of your nose to divide your two nostrils. That is called your septum. My nose was completely deviated to the point where I pretty much could not breathe up this nostril whatsoever. So my entire life up into 2014, so I was 24 years old, I basically could not breathe out of that nostril, which causes a lot of issues. I was a mouth breather. I couldn't just sit at a desk without breathing through my mouth. Sleeping at night time, I was breathing through my mouth, which has caused a lot of issues with sleeping, sleep apnea. Some people even go as far as they stop breathing. I couldn't get barely any air up there. If you blocked this nostril, there's no way that I could breathe up this nostril whatsoever. So I'd experienced that my entire life. I didn't know anything different, but obviously now I know exactly what I was missing out on, but back then that was the norm. And sport for me was very tricky. I would always breathe out my mouth, which I mean people do when they play sport, but you are meant to get in that rhythm of in through your nose, out through your mouth. There's no way that was happening for me. Just wasn't gonna happen unless I wanted to pass out. So it was always something that I was aware of. So at 24, I finally decided that I was going to look into it, and this was the beginning of my rhinoseptoplasty journey. So if you are thinking about getting this, the normal kind of steps that will happen is that you go and see a local GP, talk to them about your concerns, and then they will give you a referral to a specialist. Depending on what type of surgery route you want to go, whether or not it's strictly a rhinoplasty surgery that you're going for, I'm not sure. You may just be able to approach a surgeon directly through their website or something like that. I'm not sure. For me, I went the ENT route, which is ears, nose and throat. So I got a referral from my GP, who then referred me on to an ear, nose and throat specialist for them to have a look and see what exactly was going on. So I went to go see the ENT specialist, and basically you sit down and they chat to you about what your concerns are, and then they go and have a look up your nose pretty much. That involves them getting a really long microscope. It's really skinny, just kind of looks like this really, and on one end has a microscope, and they basically put that up your nose and they can have a look around and see exactly what's going on. They do spray a spray up your nose, which doesn't taste very nice whatsoever, but they put a spray up your nose to help open up your nasal passages, but it also numbs the area as well, so you're not uncomfortable. It does feel a bit like, oh, like something going up your nose, but it's not painful. He proceeded to shove the microscope up my nose, which he had to change the microscope 3 times to be able to get a size that would fit up my nostril. So that was just confirmation that there was something wrong, because he had to use a child's microscope to be able to go up my nostril, because he couldn't fit the normal size microscope up there. He had to dial down to a child's one. So from that, he basically was like, yep, you are a prime candidate for a septoplasty surgery. We can see that, you know, you have a severely deviated septum and a surgery will really benefit you. So from that, I was like, okay, cool. At least I know what has gone wrong, and all of my kind of thoughts that I thought was going on was confirmed by the doctor, which is really good. I spoke to him and I said that, look, you know, while I'm under, I wouldn't mind getting a little bit of a hump taken off the top portion of my nose as well. So he said, look, I don't do that. I am strictly a septoplasty, but I do work quite frequently with a rhinoplasty as well. And he gave me a referral to go and meet with him. So basically the idea is that I would have two surgeons, one to deal with septoplasty and then the other would come in and do the rhinoplasty, so the more cosmetic side of the procedure. So I booked in to go and see this surgeon. When I went to his offices, they were so professional, very, very lovely, and he just took me aside and said, look, I actually have a trainee here today as well. Are you happy for him to sit in on your consultation? I did come with my mum as well. And I said, yeah, look, that's totally fine, not a drama. So I stepped into his office with my mum, so the surgeon was there and then the trainee, and he listened to my concerns and what I wasn't happy with about my nose. And then after I told him that, he said, look, I'm going to look at your face from a medical cosmetic standpoint and we can go from there and see what exactly I might be able to do from you, which is completely fine. This doctor like ripped my face, basically telling me every single thing that was wrong with my face. So I have a very asymmetrical face. Parts of my mouth are higher and lower, my eyes are higher and lower, one side of my face is bigger, one side is smaller. He basically went through and said everything that was wrong or unsymmetric about my face. So as you can imagine, as someone's telling you everything that's wrong with your face, my self-esteem, I'm sitting there and I'm just like, kill me now. As if I wasn't already hyper aware of everything that I didn't already like about my face, he just went and made it so much worse. And I know it's his job to look at you from a medical perspective, I get that, but as someone who's already worried about their appearance, hearing that just really sticks to you. So after he went through scrutinizing my entire face, he told me exactly what he thought that I should have done to my nose cosmetically. He basically said that a sloping bridge would be very complimentary to my face. He wanted to do a bit of a pinched nose, lift it a little bit as well, basically give me this typical Hollywood nose, which sounds great when you've always had issues with your nose and thinking that it's too big or too this or too that. It sounds really great, but when you think about it later, I don't have a Hollywood face. Putting this nose that is just a perfect nose onto an imperfect face is just unrealistic, and I feel that I wouldn't look like me anymore. So I stepped out of that meeting and my mum was kind of really quiet, just kind of asking me how I thought the meeting went. And I basically just told her, I was like, look, I feel like so much worse about myself after coming back from this meeting. I feel like the doctor just wants to do a cookie cutter nose on me, which is just gonna make me look completely not like myself. And my mum absolutely agreed with me. She said, look, we've only seen one surgeon. If you want to go and see another, let's do that. So back when I had my initial meeting with my GP, he actually gave me a referral to another ENT specialist. So I decided to go and visit her. Now what was different about this surgeon is that she is a ears, nose and throat specialist, but she also performs a rhinoplasty. So it's one doctor doing the entire surgery, not like a tag team. So that's something to note as well. So I called up and made a booking at her offices, and I went and met with her again with my parents. And right away I could just tell that she was completely different. She was all about creating harmony with the face. Her whole idea is that she wants people to look well. It sounds like a very silly term, but basically the idea is that she wants you to come out of the surgery and for your friends and family not to notice that you've had a rhinoplasty done, but just for you to look well, and for the focus of your face to be your eyes and not to be your nose, which sounded exactly what I was after. She didn't want to drastically change the size. She agreed with my idea of reducing the hump, but didn't speak about reducing how narrow it was at all. Again, confirmed that I had a septum deviation issue as well, which she was happy to fix up. But basically all she was going to do on the rhinoplasty side of things is shave off my hump and slightly straighten my nose, which will help from the septoplasty, which will obviously straighten up the cartilage underneath it, which will in turn help to straighten the nose. Coming out of that meeting, I was very happy with her, very confident, and so were my parents. So I decided to go ahead and book in for the surgery. So I will put in now some clips of my before pictures here so you can see exactly what we were working with. But this is my before picture here. So basically I booked in and I had the surgery done. So now I'm just going to jump into some progress pictures of the first surgery. So this is basically the first picture where I'd had nothing done, progressing through, so you can see the swelling and how long swelling takes, to basically the end of the checkups for the first surgery. So you guys can have a look at that. Okay guys, we're going to start off with our side profiles. Please forgive all of my makeup in every single one of these pictures because it's hideous, and also the lighting at the doctor's surgery is just not very flattering, so let's just skip past that. But as you can see in this photo, I've got 4 pictures which kind of show the progression of prior to any surgery to, I think it's post-op, which is about a week or 6, or like a month or 6 weeks, 12 months, and then 14 months. So you can see the actual progression of how long swelling and things take to settle down. So starting off with the upper left-hand side. So this is my pre-op nose before I had anything done, so back in 2014. So as you can see, I have a slight bump on the top of my nose. It's quite pointed and triangular. I feel like it protrudes out quite a little bit and just doesn't look very feminine to me. As you also see that my mouth is open in this picture because I had a really hard time breathing, as I mentioned before, so my mouth is pretty much open in any pictures of me prior to my first surgery. I felt like my nose made my chin look more sunken back, and I felt like my jaw looked really receded with a side profile. So anyway, moving on to the upper, this is the upper right hand side. This is my post-op picture. So this is, I can't remember if it's 6 weeks or a month, so it's either 6 weeks or 4 weeks, but this is what my nose looks like after surgery, so 6 weeks or 4 weeks after surgery. As you can tell, it's really straight. It is quite swollen, so as you can see, the tip of my nose is quite swollen, really rounded. It doesn't look very dainty or feminine. It's quite large and bulbous at the moment. So this is what it kind of looked like after the surgery. You can tell that my mouth is closed as well because I'm not having any trouble breathing, and my chin kind of looks still receded, but it's a bit better in proportion than the first picture. So then moving down to the bottom left hand side, this is 12 months after the surgery, and as you can see, my nose is looking more defined. The tip is looking smaller. It's a little bit more curved and feminine underneath the nose as well. Again, mouth is closed because I'm not having any trouble breathing. And then over to the bottom right hand side, this is my 14 months post-op. So you can see a lot of the swelling is going down, and this is pretty much what my nose ended up looking like. Okay, so now we are moving on to a really attractive angle. So this has been taken up from underneath my nose. So as you can see in my first picture, so obviously the top left hand side, this is again my pre-op nose. My nose is bent over towards the right hand side. You can also see in my left hand nostril where my nose ring is, there's a little bit of cartilage there which is poking out. Then we're going to look over to the post-op picture. So as you can see, my nose is looking a lot straighter and my nostrils look a lot wider as well, so not as small as they were beforehand. So it's really kind of opened up my nostrils. Going down to the bottom left hand side, again, swelling's kind of gone down. You can see that my nose doesn't look as straight as it was in the post-op picture. Sometimes your nose kind of has like a memory and it likes to go back to the way it was. It didn't have too drastic of a surgery. I didn't have any bones broken in my nose. So some people that will get their bridge broken or the bone in their nose actually broken. I didn't have anything of that. It was more like a building up or stabilization. So people who have things broken, you might find that it doesn't really do that kind of memory, but for me it did go back a little bit, but nothing that I was like worried about. I still felt like it was a lot straighter than what it was originally. And then moving on to the bottom right hand side, again, this is the 14 months post-op, and as you can see, it's looking pretty good. My nostrils are still nice and wide in comparison to the upper left hand side, so I'm getting lots of air up there. I'm not having any trouble breathing whatsoever. Okay, lastly we have our front on picture. So again, my upper left hand side, this is pre-surgery, so you can see that my nose is tilted over towards the right hand side. It does look quite pointy and I feel like it's quite prominent on my face. Then we're going to move over to the next, so the upper right hand side. This is post-op. As you can see the difference, my nose is really swollen there. It looks quite bulbous, looks normal, like I didn't feel conscious about going out in public, but it's still definitely swollen. Then we're going to move down to the 12 months post-surgery. You can see how much swelling has gone down, and then we've got my
post-op 14 months down the bottom right hand side, and a lot of the swelling's gone down. It looks really natural, and I don't feel like the focus of my face is my nose in this picture. I feel like the focus is on my eyes. And again, please excuse my bags, they look horrible in all of these pictures. The doctor's surgery has like a downlight right where she takes the pictures, and it just does not look flattering whatsoever on my eye bags. But yes, I have bags, and this is what my face looks like without any studio lights, so enjoy.
So now you've had a look at the progress pictures from the first surgery. We're going to jump into the portion of the video that explains why I ended up having to have a second surgery. So I play netball on the weekends. So those of you who don't know what netball is, it's kind of like basketball, kind of similar. I'm going to leave it at that. You can Google it if you want. I play netball on the weekends, and last year around, I think it was June, July, August period, one of my teammates threw a ball in my face, and it landed right on the bridge of my nose, basically just about here, and it was thrown with it was a very forceful throw, and with very little distance between us. I'd say like 2 meters max. Like her arms could pretty much almost touch me, so really close. And basically it caused the cartilage here on the side of my nose here to collapse and basically break away from the bone. So your nose is made up of bone in this portion, and then this wiggly bit down here is all cartilage. So basically the cartilage broke away from the bone of my nose. Now, it actually didn't hurt that much. Like, I would have thought that it would have been so much more painful, but it didn't hurt too bad. My eyes watered, there was no blood. I had to go off for the quarter, but I ended up coming back on later in the game. So I didn't really think there was anything wrong, but that night, and again, I will insert some pictures now so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. That night, I got out of the shower and my nose was so swollen, and I had this ring of kind of bruising around the bridge of my nose. And I kind of looked at it, I was like, doesn't look like it normally does. Something's going on here. And basically, as it progressed through to Sunday as well, I noticed that it was just getting more bruised. So from that, I knew I wanted to go and speak with my surgeon, but I had to get a referral to go and see her. So I went and saw my local GP, who gave me a referral to my surgeon's office. So I booked in to go see my surgeon basically the end of the week because I couldn't get anything in any earlier. So I booked in to see her on the Thursday. So the incident happened on the Saturday, and then by the Thursday I was in seeing my surgeon. She took one look at my nose and was like, what has happened to you? Basically, she confirmed what I had already thought, that my nose had started to collapse, which sounds so bad, and it's really horrible when you hear that, but basically that's exactly what was happening. All the support that she'd built up in my nose, the first surgery, basically came crumbling down. So not only did my nose start to kind of collapse, but it also started to deviate as well. So I was having issues breathing up through my nostril again. Everything that she had done in the first surgery had gotten rewind back to square one, which was horrifying to hear. So because my nose was still so swollen and had had that major trauma only a few days prior, my surgeon decided, look, before we make any plans to go and have a surgery, let's just think about it and let's wait for all the swelling to go down, come back and see me in November, and we can have a look at the nose then and see what we're up against, and we can decide then if we want to go ahead and have a surgery. Best case scenario, the swelling will go down and you might have a little bit of crookedness back, and your septum might not be as perfect as it was before, but for you that might be fine. You might be okay with that. Worst case scenario is that your nose will start dipping and you'll start to get a saddle forming, where you basically get a dip from where your bone of your cartilage is. In here where the cartilage hooks on, it'll become like a little dip, and your nose will start to look deformed and misshapen there. She's like, that's worst case scenario. So I agreed, let's just wait, see how it goes. She took photos at that meeting, so when I came back in November, she could have a look at them. Fast forward to November, and I had noticed that my nose was looking more deviated and maybe a little bit funky, and I was having even a harder time breathing. So I was basically going into that meeting thinking that I was gonna have to have this revision surgery. Like, I was like, there's no two ways about it. This is getting worse. I'm gonna have to have this surgery.
So you guys would have seen the first 4 pictures. So the pictures that we're kind of looking at for a comparison are gonna be the last 2 on the bottom row. So as you can see, the middle of the bottom row, how bent over my nose has become, it pretty much looks exactly like it did did in the first picture, really slanted. I've got that bit of cartilage which is beginning to kind of pop out, and it's definitely looking more tilted than in my previous picture. Then we're going to move on to the last picture, which is my bottom right hand picture, and as you can see, that little bit of cartilage in my left hand nostril is really poking out now, so I can tell that there's been an issue with my septum. That nostril on my left hand side is really thin and is almost looking collapsed, and I'm definitely having issues breathing outside that nostril again. We're going to move on to the progress pictures again, so front on, looking at the last two pictures on the bottom row, so you can see from that middle picture compared against the first picture on that bottom row how more slanted over towards the right hand side my nose has become. The tip is really pointed over towards that side, and again you can see that on the last picture as well. I'm looking so sad in that last picture because I've just found out that I'm gonna need to have that surgery again. Like, I can just tell my face is just like, fuck my life, pretty much. Then we've got all the side profile pictures. So looking out to the last row is where you're going to see the most difference. So looking at the first picture on the last row, that is my 14-month post-op picture. The slant on my nose is looking really nice, really feminine, and then you can go in and you can see that middle picture in that bottom row. You can see that dent and that shadowing that's happening on the bridge of my nose, so you can see that my nose, that's where that kind of caving in is starting to happen. It's not as bad on the last picture, but it's definitely still there, and the rest of my nose is starting to look like it's sinking in or back in to my face. You can definitely still see that bruising mark through there as well. When she showed me those pictures and showed my parents, we were absolutely just like, what? Like, that amount of movement has happened in such a short amount of time. And my surgeon was like, I feel like it's only going to get worse. You have no stability left in your nose whatsoever, and your nose is just going to slowly and surely start to kind of cave and fall away from the bone, which isn't great just in general. For those of you who don't know, I'm getting married in October of this year, so in October 2019. This is all happening in 2018, so November 2018. So basically she's like, if you don't have the surgery now, we can wait off and you can see, but if you don't have the surgery now and you decide you want to get it later, it's going to be too late for any swelling to go down before your wedding. So you're going to be dealing with a Squidward nose basically if you decide you want to have this surgery later on. So I basically decided then and there that I was going to go ahead with the surgery. So that is basically the journey and why I decided to go ahead and have a revision rhinoseptoplasty. Again, through no fault of the surgeon, this was an accident where I got smacked in the face playing sport and my nose basically got broken, which meant I had to go and have a revision. It's definitely something that can happen and that you need to be aware of if you're going to be playing sports after having a surgery like that. You think that your nose, and you can be given the all clear to play sport, but sometimes the stability and the integrity of the nose is still not there. I love playing netball, but I think my career is playing netball on the weekend is basically over. I wouldn't want to risk getting smacked in the face again, although my doctor did say now that I've had the new surgery, she did say that if I got smacked in the face with the ball this time around, that it wouldn't be going anywhere, because this time she ended up having to take cartilage from my rib, which you will see all the lovely journey of that in part 2 of this video. So I hope this was helpful for you, especially if you're thinking about getting a rhinoseptoplasty, to just be really particular with the surgeon that you want to go with. Make sure you're really comfortable with them and happy. Don't feel pressured whatsoever to have the surgery if you're not completely happy with your surgeon. Make sure you hang out and you find that person who really listens to you and understands what you want and doesn't impose their ideals of a perfect nose onto you if that's not what you're after. So I know that was a really long video, but I hope it was helpful for you. If it was, don't forget to leave me a big thumbs up. Subscribe down below if you are new so you don't miss out on any of my new videos, especially the one following this is going to be part 2 of my rhinoseptoplasty journey, where I share with you my vlog. Again, it's a really long one. It is basically a really in-depth vlog about what actually happens and what can happen, and I talk about everything in this video. So basically bodily functions, what can happen, recovery time, complications, everything that you need to know to prepare yourself for the surgery is going to be in that video. So if you want to check that out, I will link it up in the cards
and down below if I've already posted it, but like I said, it will be after this video, so in a few days I will post that vlog. So don't forget to come back so you can check that out. So I think that's it. If you have any questions for me, please leave them down below. I'd love to be able to answer them for you the best that I can. Again, this is only my experience, but I feel like it's something that wasn't really spoken about. So I hope this video can help you make an informed decision about why you're getting the surgery and if you want to go ahead with it. Looking back on it, I definitely am happy that I went through it, and now that I'm out the other end of the entire journey, I can definitely say that it has helped and I'm happy with the end result. But it took me a long time to get there and there was issues along the way, so just something for you guys to note. So with that being said, I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of the week, and I will see you all in my next video. Mwah! Bye guys.